What's up, techies? I've got a comparison video for you between the Note 5, Moto X Pure Edition, and also the Nexus 6P. The purpose of this video is to kind of give you my experience between the three devices. Maybe you're in the market for a new phone and you're not sure which one to choose. These are three of some of the more recent ones that have been released. The Note 5's been out for a few months, Moto X a couple months, and then the Nexus 6P has actually just been released. As you can see here, the Note 5 is the Verizon variant. These two phones are unlocked, but you can use it on Verizon. I'm a Verizon subscriber, so that's where I use it on the networks and so forth. I guess that's where you can kind of start, is that these guys you can put on pretty much any network, any of the major networks. The Note 5, you're going to have to find your particular carrier and pick it up from them, or like you can get unlocked ones and put on T-Mobile, AT&T, and stuff like that. Let's go over some of the physical differences to get things going. The Note 5 is all glass. The back and the front is all glass. You have a metal trim on the sides. With the glass back like this, some of the cons to it is that you're going to get a fingerprint magnet for one, but if you drop it, you not only have to worry about the front, but now you have to worry about the back. Although I've not scratched this in the 3 months that I've had the Note 5, but that still kind of leaves me a little bit concerned about getting scratches on a glass surface. I definitely recommend getting some cases. I have a whole playlist of cases for the Note 5. Check that out over on my channel. Now here's the Moto X Pure Edition, and this is a red leather back. You have lots of choices that you can do over at Moto Maker between soft touch, wood, and also leather. I chose to go with the red leather and the champagne gold. On the front you have a white face and then also speakers that are in that champagne gold trim. This is the Nexus 6P, and I got the frost color, which is white, but you also have the choices of getting either a black or a silver kind of color. Just kind of depends on your preferences. To me, white looks really good. This is a full metal body, so that really leaves you really secure knowing that you got a really nice premium quality device. You got these nice chamfered edges with the trim. That's some of the main differences that you're going to see between these particular devices, at least with the build quality materials. I will give props to Samsung for going away from that plastic cheap kind of build. It just really feels really nice. It feels like you're getting your money's value with this kind of material versus the plastic that they had before. Something that these guys have in common is the 5.7-inch screen. So it's on the bigger side of most phones, but it's actually my preferred size. I really like the 5.7-inch screen. As far as the body size goes, the Nexus 6P is definitely taller than the Moto X and the Note 5. The Note 5 and the Moto X are pretty much the same size, or at least the same height. As far as the sides go, it seems like the Moto X is just a shy smaller than the other two. The Note 5 and the Nexus 6P seems to be about the same. For kicks and giggles, I'm going to boot these up and try to do it at the same time. It's going to be kind of a challenge, but I'm going to try so that we can kind of see how fast it boots up from being powered off all the way to the home screen. Let's see if I can do this, line it up just right. All right. Yep, I kind of did it at the same time. All right, who do you think's going to win? Dang, Note 5 won that one. All right, so I got to put a pin in here real quick. The Nexus 6P kind of gets hung up depending on how fast you can put that pin in. That's just one of the security measures that I have on the phone. And the Moto X finally booted all the way up. So the Nexus 6P is still working, and we got the Note 5 that came in and then the Moto X, and now we're waiting on the Nexus 6P. I will say that it's going to be a little bit delayed because it depends on how fast you can put the pin in there for that security measure, but that's kind of interesting to me. It seems like it almost goes through 2 boot animations before it actually gets to the home screen. It's about to be there. All right, so there we are, back at the home screen with the Nexus 6P. So that was interesting. I actually Almost would expect a stock pure Android to be faster than the Note 5. It's pretty interesting to me. One of the things that I look for in a phone is how easy it is to hold. Do I feel like I'm going to drop it? If you're not using a case, this could be something that you're going to want to pay attention to. Now, to me, the Note 5 feels really good in the hands. The edges really do help with the grip. And the back, it doesn't really ever feel slick just because I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like it's not a slippery glass. You got your power button on the right-hand side, and then you got your volume rocker on the other side. Now, I actually kind of like to have all the buttons on one side. Personally, I like to have all the buttons on one side. That's just a personal preference of mine. It just seems to be a little easier to touch and hold. But at the same time, I'm going to touch on a point once I get to the Nexus 6P that I would actually like it somewhere else. Just typically, I have always liked it to be on all one side. The Moto X does have the buttons on the right-hand side, and it's got a little texture on the power button so you know which one it is, and it's really not an issue of pressing the button at all. It's easy to get to the volume rockers and all that kind of stuff. And that's just kind of how I like it, because I can just kind of press my thumb around here and, operate the buttons the way I want to. Over on the Nexus 6P, the power button and the volume rockers are on the same side, but I have found myself accidentally hitting the volume rockers when I'm trying to hit the power button, or when I'm just handling it. They seem a little bit more sensitive to me. It's hard to simulate that right now, but like throughout the day that I've been using it, it just seems like I've done some accidental volume button touches. Another thing I want to show you is how quick you can get to your home screen when the device is powered on. The Note 5 has a really good fingerprint sensor, and I actually prefer this way over the other devices. It's really easy. That's all you got to do. With the Moto X, you have a few different options. You get these notifications like you see here, the active screen, so you can unlock your screen that way, or you can press the power button and swipe and get to your home screen that way, kind of depending on how your phone is set up. I've got my location as a trusted place. So I don't have to put a pin in, I don't have to do a pattern if I don't want to. If I have a smartwatch connected to the phone, I can use that. So it's actually relatively easy when you have the trusted places and devices and things like that to get to your home screen and so forth. The Nexus 6P, on the other hand, is pretty cool. It's got the fingerprint sensor on the back, and it's very quick to respond. That's all you have to do is just touch the back to get the phone unlocked. The other thing I've noticed is, like, if you get a notification here, like you see there, you can just tap it and go. And that's because I also have this set up with my smartwatch, my LG or Bane watch, that it's a trusted device and it's just quicker to get to the home screen. Regardless, even if I didn't have any of those trusted devices or places in place, this fingerprint sensor unlocks it really quick. Let's talk about the camera, because that's actually a big deal to me. If the camera performs well, I'll keep the phone. If it doesn't perform well, I probably will find another phone to use as soon as I can. For example, the Nexus 6 of last year was just bad in my opinion, and I couldn't wait to get rid of it, and I did so. The Note 5, in my opinion, is the best camera of 2015 on a smartphone. It is so good. As a matter of fact, I've used the camera for a lot of my recent videos, and I'm not even sure that you could even tell because it just looks that good. What I want to do here, just kind of show you some of the options that you get with these cameras. The Note 5 is by far the best camera, and it's going to give you so many options to choose from. You got tons and tons of options here. I'll leave a link down below in my description of my Note 5 that kind of goes in more detail of the camera app. But as you can see here, you got tons of options to go with. You got a bunch of different modes that you can use. For the most part, I use auto most of the time. And there's some pro features. You got a lot of different other kind of functions here. The slow motion, the fast motions are really easy to use, very fun to use. And if you don't see something that you want, or maybe a function that you know that Samsung has, you can go to their store and download it. You don't actually have to have it on the phone. But some of the things that I look for in a camera is like some of the macro type shots, how easy it is to use, obviously the quality. The thing that has stood out to me the most about the Note 5 camera is the sound quality. There's a lot of times where I didn't have to clean up any audio because the audio was just fine the way it was. With the Moto X, you're pretty much going to get the Google camera with a couple other little functions. With this time, you can actually adjust your exposure to see how much light or darkness you want in the photo. And I like to have the focus to be moved around. Otherwise, it defaults it to just, you tap the screen and it takes the picture. For me, I like it to be able to focus on what I want to focus on and then take the picture. Now, it responds relatively quick, and that's always good. Then the options for the Google camera is going to be over here. You swipe over, and you got all your options that you can choose from. Now there's no fast motion, which is a disappointment for me because I actually like to use that. I like to get creative with that kind of stuff. You do have slow motion, and it works pretty good, but if you want some more functions out of a camera, you're going to have to download another app or get another phone like the Note 5. Now with the Nexus 6P camera, it's a little different. It's got a couple menu options here. It looks a lot like the stock Google, but if you want to choose for your different modes, you go to your mode list over here. So you got photosphere, panorama, lens blur, then you got your settings to where you can adjust your resolution and all those kind of options there. You also got film strip, which is basically what you just took. You got the Z plus and Z minus, which is your zooming, and then you can look at your gallery by pressing the button down there. If you want to use the front-facing camera, you just select this button and it switches it for you. If you want to do video, you swipe over and you start taking your video that way. So for this next part, I want to show you how quick it is to launch the camera app and then take a picture. I'm going to upload the pictures that I take to my social media channels, especially Google+, but I'll also leave a link down below in the description to where you can find those. So you got that, and then you can launch it. Tap the focus on the head, and then there we go. With the Moto X, you have a little bit of a different kind of shortcut. You can twist, it launches, take the camera, tap the focus or move the focus for the Motorola, take your picture. There's a couple of kind of quick ways to launch the camera with the Nexus 6P. You can do it by pressing the power button, then swiping over from the lock screen, and then you can tap the focus and then snap the picture. Or the other kind of quicker way that you can do stuff is to do the fingerprint sensor and then launch the camera from wherever you have it on your home screen and then take your picture. Out of these three phones, the Note 5 is definitely the best, and I'd say it's actually like a tie between the Moto X and the Nexus 6P. They pretty much have the same kind of camera functions, and the quality actually kind of comes out about the same in my opinion. It's not a bad quality, but it's not the best. Another thing I want to point out about the differences between these is that you're going to get notifications a little bit different than the rest of them. As you can see here, the Moto X, when you have a notification, it's going to kind of do this breathing effect, and it lets you know that it's doing something. There's no notification light or LED light. The Note 5 has that, so does the 6P. Personally, I like the notification light. I don't necessarily want my screen coming in and out until I check the notification. With the 6P, it's kind of like hit and miss. Like there'll be times where you kind of get that ambient display that you see on the Moto X come over on the Nexus 6P. It's more like it kind of appears when it wants to, then it goes away. And then at times when you pick up the phone, it'll come back on just like that, kind of like an action. And so you can interact with it at that point. So the Nexus 6P kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You get a notification LED light, but you also get the kind of Moto X kind of feel as well. As far as performance goes, they've all acted really well. They're nice and responsive. No issues there, in my opinion. I use Nova Launcher. That's just the launcher that I like to use. I like to use different icon packs and things like that. But anyways, it's not really been an issue as far as performance goes. They both, they work fine. Let's just go to some web pages and kind of see how they perform on each one. So here we are, we're at the same Google page, and I'm just going to go to my bookmark and go to the Bane Tech webpage. I'm not going to do this in the same time or whatever, but just try to show you how fast they load up and stuff. You can see it works pretty good, pretty quick. Now these are on Wi-Fi. This is on my LTE. You can kind of see as many bookmarks as I got. It's definitely a lot to go through. But they all load up pretty quick. There's not much of a lag at all. No, not much different what you would see on a computer. It scrolls just fine. Now while we're here, I do have auto brightness on all three of these devices in their own form or fashion, so you can kind of see what screens look good to you and what don't. And I mean, they all look pretty nice to me. The Note 5 is definitely going to look the best in my opinion, and it just kind of depends on the lighting. I know in daylight, this is the best by far because it has that brightness boost, so that's always fun. I like that a lot. You could check out some of these articles if you want to head on over there. So it seemed like the Moto X is a little slower. These guys loaded up about the same. But I mean, it's not bad. It's not like it's super laggy. For the most part, I'm happy with the performance out of all three of these devices. They don't really hiccup that bad at all, if anytime. If I was going to rank the screens of how good they look, it's going to be the Note 5, the Nexus 6P, and then the Moto X. But there's not too much of a difference. They all look really good in their own respects. Another thing I want to point out is that the Moto X and the Nexus 6P both have front-facing dual speakers. The Note 5 has their speaker on the bottom, and it's just one little spot near that grill. Now, it's better than what they did in the past. They used to put them on the back, which is just one of the worst spots in my opinion. But the speaker sounds really good with the Note 5. It's nice and loud. As far as the sound quality goes, I like the speakers on each of these devices. There's not one that just like really stands out away from the others. One of the last things I want to point out about these devices is actually the location of the headphone jack. Normally, it's not really a big deal to me, but there's one thing about the Nexus 6P that I want to talk about in just a second that I wish that they would put it on the other side. Typically, my preference is to have the headphone jack on the bottom. It just seems like it's a better position for me. On the Moto X, you're going to have it on the top. You also have the headphone jack on the top of the Nexus 6P. Now, this is where this poses a problem, and I'm going to elaborate this more in my full review of the Nexus 6P. Imagine if this phone was going into your pocket. Now, you couldn't put it down this way to where you would naturally pull it out and be able to use the fingerprint sensor to unlock it once you pull it out. The headphone jack needs to be on the bottom because of that. So that way, everything is hanging out this way. The natural way to reach into the pocket is like this, and you're pulling it out with your finger already on the sensor, and it's already unlocked when you pull it out. Now, if you don't use headphones, this isn't a deal breaker or anything like that, but it is something that you want to pay attention to depending on how you use your phone. That's going to wrap it up for this comparison video between the Note 5, the Moto X Pure Edition, and also the Nexus 6P. Obviously, I didn't touch on all the stuff that you could talk about these phones. We could be here for hours if I did that, but I wanted to highlight some of the stuff that means a lot to me out of a phone and some of the stuff I look for, whether it's a deal breaker or not. I do appreciate you sticking around and watching this to the end. It means a lot to me. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos about the Nexus 6P and also the Moto X Pure Edition. Share this video with your friends and family. This could be something very useful for them coming up, especially with the holidays coming right around the corner. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And until then, stay techy.